This podcast is a part of the Podmania podcasting network. Check out podmania.co.uk to check out more of our great podcasts, features, reviews, match ratings and previews spanning the crazy and diverse world of professional wrestling. Welcome to episode 50 of the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things world-wondering Stardom right here on the Podmania Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I am joined as ever by Matt Turner. Matt, how the devil are you?
Rob, friends of the show, ahoy. Ahoy, sir. I was totally going to start this episode out with a joke of me wrestling Lady C at World Climax, but nobody cares about that. We'll talk about that at another time. Obviously, some ginormous news. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's, talk about it. We got the mystery reveal of the mystery lady, and I don't think anybody was disappointed.
No, we mentioned last week, actually, that once the reveal took place, the amount of press they'd given it and the way they'd done it, if it was anyone other than KAIRI, irrelevant of who it was, it could have been a slight disappointment, but the way that Stardom have framed this entire return, not only have they managed to get, KAIRI, just in case you don't know who we're talking about, and of course it is KAIRI, stylized in all capitals. Not only have they brought her to the fore, but in the ensuing minutes after the press conference, we also managed to get Tam over, Unagi over, Oeda Tai over, and, Miyu as well. So in that 10 minutes or, whatever span that was, we got a lot, considering it was for free on YouTube, Matt.
Yeah, and before we get deep into it, let's give the apologies right away. Me and you always talk. We try to keep these podcasts around an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half. That's not happening for obvious reasons. This needs to go. This can go as long as it needs to for obvious reasons. But I have a whole bunch of questions to ask you. You are obviously the biggest and most passionate Stardom fan that I know. I know we talked a little bit about yesterday. We're taping this on Saturday. The reveal happened on Friday. I text back and forth with you a little bit yesterday after it happened. I just want to know, give me kind of the beat by beat, like how you heard, where you heard, when, and like what was your immediate reaction? Because I'm interested to hear your what happened on your end.
So obviously, when they announced that there was going to be a press conference about Ryogoku World Climax and that the mystery woman would be revealed, I knew they wouldn't be able to announce too much about World Climax with obviously, Cinderella journey having to happen in the interim. So I was like, it's got to be big if they're calling a press conference, because all they're going to be able to announce for World Climax is, maybe the odd match. They're not going to be able to announce the full card without spoiling the results of their February show. So I was like, it's going to be someone big. It has to be KAIRI. And obviously I work in a school, so I was like, I'm going to have to wait till break, which is 11 a.m. And I think the press conference was 9 a.m. British time. So I was like, it's all right, I'll find out. And anyway, the two children that I support in their lesson, they weren't in for the first half an hour of the lesson. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to be able to watch this coming through live on Twitter. And obviously, as I turned on the Twitter machine, it had just been announced that it's Kairi Hojo on We Are Stardom. And there was a kid sitting next to me, so, "Sir, what are you smiling at?" So it's nothing, don't worry, you won't understand. So, that's pretty much how I found out. I was following it along on Twitter, and then obviously more and more things were happening, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, the fact that Kairi's returned, and not only has Kairi returned, because I was worried that with Kairi's return that she would be a figurehead. And, to have Kairi at the company in any sort of capacity is absolutely great. But selfishly, I came into Stardom after the Kairi Hojo, Io Shirai sort of years. I would have loved one final run, and to learn that, she's very interested in wrestling full-time and going for belts. That was the big thing for me from this press conference. We aren't just getting, the odd special sort of star attraction match with Kairi. She's coming back and she's going to be doing the hard yards, which that is the most exciting thing for me coming out of this, Matt.
Yeah. I kind of almost like to see CM Punk return. We all kind of heard the rumors when Punk was, not to turn this into AEW thing. Obviously, CM Punk is near and dear to my heart, but we all heard when he was coming back, it might be for a match here or there. He was like, no, I kind of want to make the rounds, and that's kind of the way it was with her. But for me, how I found out, it was the press conference was 4:00 Eastern time over here in the States, and during the week, I get up a little bit after 4 to go to the gym and do my workouts. I just like getting it done first thing in the morning. So I kind of figured, well, the press conference is at 4. They probably won't make the car announcement until around 5. So I got up, did what I needed to do, started getting ready to go to the gym. It was around 4:30. I went on Twitter, and I figured they would have made some other announcements. One of the announcements I was expecting was all the factions need to dissolve because there's only going to be DDM and Oedo Tai because there's already 52 members. That's another story for another time. But literally, probably around 4:30 in the morning, as soon as I go on Twitter, the first handful of things were, welcome back, Kairi, welcome back, Kairi. And at first, this must be somebody trolling. And I was about 85% sure this is what it's going to be. And then I scroll down a little bit further, and there's that 10, 11-second clip of her, her reveal. Ratzi sat on the couch, and you could just see the smile on her face. And Rob, I'll be 100% honest with you. I got emotional. I started tearing up a little. And, if you take this out of context and take a step back, I'm a grown-ass man, 4:30 in the morning, in my kitchen crying because a 110-pound Japanese girl that dresses up like a pirate is returning to her home promotion. Like, isn't wrestling great? You know what I mean? But obviously, if you're obviously listening to this, so you're a wrestling fan and a Stardom fan, and obviously we thank you. But I was quickly reminded of a promo Kairi cut. I think it was in NXT because it was in English, where it was after a match. She was crying and she was very emotional, and she said, "I love wrestling." And I think that's where we all are. I mean, obviously, I love it. I love performing in it. I love watching it. I love teaching from it. I love learning from it. And because of this forum that we have, we can talk about it. And, we get a lot of great response back from our listeners. And I think I'm just so excited to do this episode because this is a big deal. I mean, this is a big, big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's, obviously I spoke about the way they framed this entire return. We had a little bit extra at the very, very end that Stardom posted, which we'll talk about after that. But obviously we learned that Kairi's going to participate at the World Climax shows at Sumo Hall, both the 26th and the 27th. And we even, got hiccups, we've even got her first match back. While she was listing off people that she wanted to fight, Tam Nakano's name came up. This brought out Unagi, who was then quickly followed by Tam. Unagi did her, I'm the assessor of Stardom and things have moved on. And Kairi looked like she was going to give her the spinning back fist, which really made me laugh. And it's basically turned into a tag match where Unagi and Tam are going to be teaming up with Kairi and a partner of her choice, which, of course, she said she wanted to be Miyu. So on that first night of World Climax, the first 2 matches announced are we obviously have Syuri and Julia at the top going for the red belt, but we also have Kairi Hojo's return to the ring on the 26th of March, tag match, Cosmic Angels, Tam Nakano and Unagi Sayaka versus Mayu Iwatani and Kairi Hojo. Now, I spoke at the very start about how the way Stardom did this, they were able to get over other members of their roster as well as, encapsulating this buzz and sort of building on this buzz of Kairi's return. This is huge for Unagi. Like, you think about what this does for Unagi. Miyu is set. Miyu is the icon of Stardom. She doesn't need this. Tam is, she was the white belt for the entire of last year almost. So she doesn't need the rub. But Unagi, to be a part of this special tag match, which, let's face it, it's probably going to semi-main that night. It's probably going to be, one of, if not the biggest match on the night. The first time KAIRI's wrestled in Stardom since, 2017? That's huge for her, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously a big deal. But it's a huge deal. We'll get into the dream matches in a minute here. But like, if you take a look at this, obviously KAIRI coming back, she's one of the three daughters, obviously with Io and Miyu, one of the biggest stars in the history of that promotion. But you take a look, it's like, okay, well, where was she when she left Stardom in 2017? What did she do between 2017 and now in 2022? And it's not like she was retired or she was injured or she was wrestling for Impact or Ring of Honor or Ice Ribbon or Seedling or any of those promotions. And no disrespect to those promotions. They're all great promotions. She was wrestling for the biggest wrestling company in the world. And you can say what you want to about the WWE. And I'm very, I always say on this podcast and just life in general, you can have your opinion on whatever you want.
Yeah.
But the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. I mean, she's wrestling in front of between what's happening in the crowd and people watching, roughly 1 million people. And she was used very well. She was the inaugural Mae Young Classic winner. Mm-hmm. She won the Nxt Women's Championship. And those takeovers, they were always sold out. So she's wrestling on those takeovers, once a quarter in front of 18,000 people. And then she goes over to Raw where she teams with Asuka and they win the Raw Women's titles. And I understand the Raw ratings aren't what they were, but there's still like 1.5 million people watching. I mean, can you imagine if 1.5 million people were listening to our podcast every week? I mean, you'd punch your grandmother in the throat for that, for those numbers. Because my 2 grandmothers are probably up there in heaven looking down saying, oh, boy, he's intense, isn't he? But anyway, so you get my point. You get my point. And then it's like, not only do you have this legend coming back, still in her young 30s, obviously, I mean, look at her. This is the best shape of her life. She hasn't taken any bumps in a while, so she's probably hungry. She's got that fire probably burning inside, and any nagging injuries that she had are probably gone. And plus, you're going to bring over a handful of those WWE fans that watched her and say, "Oh, I want to see her over here." So, kind of basically, I mean, I'm going to kind of spitball and throw this at you, Rob. Based what we did for our last Patreon episode, the Yuzuki Akawa retirement show, drawing over 5,000 people, you can make a general argument as far as a drawing standard, not in ring, as far as just the draw, that Akawa was the biggest star in the history of the company. Over 5,000 people. Sorry would ever come close to this. I think there's a very good possibility by the end of this year that we're going to say, nope, KAIRI Sane, KAIRI Hojo, KAIRI, whatever you want to call her. As far as a draw goes, between what she's going to do on merchandising, subscriptions to Stardom World, YouTube views, and as Jim Ross calls it, an ass every 18 inches. I think at the end of this year, she's going to be the biggest star in the history of the company. Am I crazy on that notion? Or?
I mean, it depends how they use her. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, if she comes to the ring and then, that's it really. She has a few middling matches. They don't use her in the correct way, which, don't get me wrong, I'm playing devil's advocate. I have every confidence that Stardom are going to use her spectacularly. But it wouldn't surprise me if she leads her own faction. Maybe this is where the DDM split comes. And maybe we have KAIRI Hojo. I keep calling her KAIRI Hojo. I know it's only KAIRI, but it takes a little bit to get out of that.
Maybe, whatever, call her whatever you want. I don't think it matters.
So the Sky Pirate, she could leave it to her own faction, and then, she could be having red belt matches. A match in 2022 with KAIRI Hojo in the main event for the red belt, that's going to sell seats. Do I think the World Climax shows over either night are going to reach 5,000 tickets?
And then you hold that with COVID restrictions?
Because I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, and I'm sure very knowledgeable people in our Discord or on Twitter will be able to correct me, but I think for wrestling, I think it's about 13,000, the capacity for Budokan. So if you look at half of that, 7,500. So, and don't forget as well, Japan are in the process of sort of relaxing COVID restrictions. So I think if Stardom wanted to reach that 5,500 sort of benchmark that Cinderella Ryogoku reached in 2013, getting Kairi back, short of Io returning, this is the best thing they could have possibly done. This is the biggest star they could have brought in. And do you know what? It's going to be good to see as good as Kairi was and is, in Stardom, she was overshadowed by Io, as was everyone. Io was fantastic. She was always, she was booked incredibly strong as well. But Kairi has a chance to really shine here as well. So not only is it a good move for Stardom, it's a great move for Kairi. Do I think she'll be, sort of coming back to your, overarching question, do I think she'll be the biggest draw in Stardom history? I don't know. Is my honest answer.
Well, let me answer your question with I would give you another question. Then who, in your opinion, again, as far as a draw, I think me and you both agree Io's number one. She's the GOAT of Stardom. But as far as a draw goes, who do you think is the number one draw in Stardom history?
I mean, your obvious thing is to go for Miyu, but
she's been there the longest. Yeah,
she's been there the longest, absolutely. So if you're talking cumulatively, then it's going to be Miyu. But on the flip side of that, Miyu has been in the company this entire time, and they haven't reached that benchmark again. I think if Io is one, then Kairi and
great Twitter and Instagram.
Say again?
No, I just said anybody that has a strong opinion, just let us know. Let us know on social media in the Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Io's number one, then Kairi and Miyu are 2A and 2B.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, this is a huge deal. It's creating a lot of buzz. I mean, I even know through friends and fans of mine and even fellow wrestlers that are kind of on the fence of watching Stardom. When this announcement hit, it was, I had a lot of questions. How do I subscribe? How do I do this? How do I, navigate? I mean, this is at a point where I think they need to turn the Stardom World thing into an app instead of just logging onto a website. Because some people it's a lot easier to log onto an app, like how the WWE Network was. Now Peacock, it's an app where you can just download it on your PlayStation or your Fire Stick or whatever instead of going, onto a website and then you have to hit the translate or whatever. I mean, you invested all this into getting Kairi. I think you need to invest into maybe an easier mode for overseas fans to watch the product.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I've said this for many, many months that the Stardom World site needs a revamp. I'm sure live streaming is on the way, but obviously with a team of one on the English translation team, one or two, they do need more support. And I think that could be where they're going with this because, as you mentioned before, Kairi's done all this stuff in the US, and, there's going to be arguments about how well she was treated. She was treated very well in NXT. She was, the NXT Women's Champion. She, as you already mentioned, won the inaugural Mae Young Classic. Her time on Raw, it was there. I mean, I don't think anyone can really say she was treated like a superstar, but, on the flip side, that she still held titles on the main roster, so she was a known commodity. It's going to bring Western eyes over. Inherently, it is going to bring Western eyes over, so obviously a better time to measure this will be after World Climax, when we get the numbers of tickets, but also, subscriptions to Stardom World and people who've bought the pay-per-view and things like that. I'll be very interested to see what sort of a bump we're talking after this signing. But even if it doesn't, from a very selfish standpoint, I am buzzing for this.
Yeah, I mean, she even wrestled at a WrestleMania. Now, again, because of COVID restrictions, it was the empty arena WrestleMania. But still, you're still having, between views on the network, Peacock, whatever, DVD views, YouTube views, and the people going back and watching it, still probably over 1 million people that watched that match. And most people have 2 eyes, so that's over 2 million eyeballs that watch that. So there's that. And one of the biggest misses in WWE, and again, this is no fault of their own because of the COVID. That WrestleMania was supposed to take place at Raymond James Stadium, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. Just imagine Kairi Sane, Kairi Hojo, Kairi, whatever you want to call her, coming out on that giant pirate ship that they have out towards one of the end zone. I mean, that just writes itself, doesn't it?
Oh, it'd be incredible. I mean, just imagine her right at the top. The spotlight hits her. Oh, it'd be incredible. But
that infectious smile. Yeah, absolutely.
Just for a little bit of context, obviously, as we record this, we're a little bit late this week for unavoidable reasons. It's the 19th of February. She's going to wrestle her first match in the company on the 26th. She has not wrestled a match since the 20th of July 2020. And that was her last match on Raw against Bayley. So it's going to be almost 2 years since she last wrestled, which is mind-boggling. 20 months since Kairi Hojo's last match to her re-debut match, Matt. So
yeah,
she said in the press conference, I am in the best shape I've ever been in. I'm buzzing. I'm really excited about it. Not only that, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can see it. She owns her own gym. When she moved back, you can see it. Yeah. I'm sorry. You're cutting out there, buddy. Go ahead.
No, please carry on.
Oh no, you can tell from the she was trimmed up in the abs, and her arms were just huge. I mean, just obviously in the best shape of her life. However, again, to play devil's advocate, wrestling shape, being in ring shape, is completely different than gym shape. So, hopefully she's in the gym training. I think her tag match with Unagi Tam and Mayu, I think her first couple matches to maybe bang off some of the ring rust is kind of the way to go. But another question I have for you, the current roster of Stardom now compared to the majority of the roster during Kairi's run, do you think it's better, worse, the middle? Obviously, the number one person on her original run was Io Shirai. So obviously the number one person there now, whether it's Mayu or Tam or Siri or whoever, it's no offense, it's still, Io's still number one. But compare the two rosters. Do you think that she's going to have better matches with the current roster than she did in her initial run?
Yes. The reason I say that is because in 2015, 16, 17, 18, we had Freedom, and then it was a very top-heavy roster. Whereas now you look at, the likes of DDM. Just in DDM, she could have a great match with Julia, Syuri, Maika, Himika, Natsupoi. She's got a history with Natsupoi. So there's 5 great matches right off the bat, and that's without taking into account Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, Tam, Mayu, Utami. The match, I know this sounds ridiculous, but of all the matches that I am excited to see Kairi have now that she's back, I'm buzzing for the idea of Kairi versus Hazuki. I think that could be an absolute barn burner. Kairi versus Kaguma. All of these matches now that are possible. But I do think that the roster now there's more talent. It's deeper than it was when she wrestled there before, in my personal opinion. What about you?
I totally agree. Again, obviously, Io, Meiko Satomura, probably her 2 best feuds, obviously, both in WWE in one way or another. But even the constant that's there is Mayu Iwatani. And I think we'll both agree, Mayu, she's pretty much been great since the start, her 15, 16, 17 run. But I think she's doing some of her best work now. So just to see, a prime Mayu Iwatani versus Kairi, I mean, buzzing about that. I thought the match you were going to say that you wanted to see the most would be Azumi. Because there's another one, Utami. I mean, there's so much they can do with her. I hope that she doesn't immediately join a faction or start a faction, just because I would like to see her. It seems like I would like to see her tag with other factions or wrestle against other factions. So this way, it kind of doesn't pigeonhole into something. Like, obviously, we're having the first match is going to be the tag match that we mentioned, but they kind of started something with Starlight Kid and Momo. So does that mean, obviously the big feud is Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai. So does that mean Kairi's going to team up with somebody from Queen's Quest? Is her next match going to be Kairi and Utami or Kairi and Azumi versus Momo and Starlight Kid? Where she can kind of weave in and out of these factions, where she can, tag with one night and tag with another at another night. So, I mean, you have that as well. And here's something else, too, that kind of just popped into my brain. Kairi being in WWE, especially in NXT, she's learning. She's learning from like the small things, and she's learning from people like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, William Regal. And then when she goes up to the main roster, I mean, if you've seen it on camera before, the last person that you see before you cut the curtain in the gorilla position, the first person you see is Vince McMahon. And you can say anything what you want about him. He's the most influential person in the history of wrestling ever. He took an industry and turned it into a multi-million-dollar and now a multi-billion-dollar company. So she's learning little things of how to present yourself on TV better, and from those people. And they're absolute geniuses. You can't deny that. So you don't think that Kairi isn't going to go to somebody that already has that it factor, like a Mayu, a Julia, a Utami, an Azumi, and said, all these things I see that you're doing well, but instead of doing this, try this. Instead of this, try this. So immediately, I mean, you talked about at the beginning of the podcast that it's like even if she was just in an ambassador or a backstage role, it was going to help out. So obviously we get her in the ring, but even the little things that she's going to teach that she learned from the geniuses over on WWE that that she's going to try to help grow the roster. So that as well. I mean, everybody in this company immediately becomes better having her backstage and in the ring as well.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agree. We'll talk about the Oedetai beatdown, because I know that's got mixed responses, which I don't really understand, but there we are. We'll talk about that in a moment. You mentioned something about Queen's Quest. And obviously, we don't want... I'm in complete agreement with you. The longer we have Kairi unattached to a faction, the more matches she can have. She can have matches with whoever she wants then. There doesn't have to be faction alignment or anything like that. Ultimately, though, if she doesn't start her own faction, what about going to Queen's Quest?
That's it. 100%.
I mean, you look at Queen's Quest, we've both talked about the fact that they lost Momo Watanabe. They lost that constant in that faction. They replaced it with Lady C, who, despite people's love of Lady C, she ain't no Momo Watanabe. Not yet, anyway. So we need that big figure. They don't have that big figure. Obviously, you've got Utami, who's going to be stepping up. You've got Saya Kamatani, who is going to step up. And you've got Azumi. But Kairi Hojo was that figurehead of Queen's Quest. The faction that, one of her best friends in Io Shirai started. And then, down the line, if Io does ever return, that would be a ready-made match to take charge of Queen's Quest. And obviously, we're talking years down the line. But I'd love to see her in Queen's Quest eventually, if she doesn't start her own faction. I'm more than happy to see her with no faction alignment until after the 5-star. I don't think it's important until after the 5-star, and possibly beyond then. I mean, if you're looking at Dream Queendom, which we're actually going to talk about in a minute, and if we're going to do that show again in December, that big show, what better way to finish that show than with Mayu versus Kairi? The first time they face off since 2017, and I think Mayu took the white belt off her. That would draw massive Kairi versus Mayu in the main event, surely.
Fully.
So,
does...
Go on.
I'm sorry.
No, please carry on.
Sorry, I keep running into you. I'm sorry, my friend. But it's exciting stuff here. But here, you kind of bumped into a question I want to ask you. Does Kairi do the 5-star this year?
Yes. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
I don't see how she can't. I also don't see how we are going to be, to be extending the field for the 5-star, because just this year we've brought in Kairi, we've brought in Tekla, we've brought in Mirai, and we've got Waka and Mei Sakurai as well. I don't think Waka Sugiyama is going to be in the 5-star, but, they've pushed Mei. We're going to be talking about Mei Sakurai in a lot of detail later, so maybe they'll want her on the 5-star. We didn't have Natsuka Tora in last year's 5-star. We didn't have Saya Ida in last year's 5-star, so there's a lot of names. We didn't have Azuki in last year's 5-star, so there are a lot of names that weren't in that 5-star that need to be in that 5-star, especially if Tekla is the SWA champ. It makes no sense for her not to be in. They're obviously very high on Mirai because she main evented Nagoya Supreme Fight for the red belt. Saya Iida's not going to be in the 5-star if she's fit. Same for Tora. So it's going to be a very, very interesting 5-star. we talked about Aweda Tai. They attacked Kairi at the end of the press conference, and Starlight Kid and Momo Watanabe and Natsukatora basically said this place has changed a lot since you left for WWE. We run this place now. I like it. I don't really understand what the big hoo-ha is about it. You know, I think Stardom, as I said before, have done this perfectly because you've capitalized on the hype around Kairi and put over the likes of Aweda Tai, Starlight Kid, Momo, you know, given their faction some more heat. You've got Unagi, who's going to be benefiting from a huge match at Sumo Hall. I personally don't think they could have done any more with this than they already did, Matt.
Yeah, this was perfect. I actually saw maybe about an hour or two after the announcement, somebody cropped out Tam in the picture and it's had like Unagi and Kairi. And the caption on the, I forget who did the tweet. The caption on the tweet was, "I can't wait for Unagi to put this rookie in her place."
Well, they did have they had a brief little exchange, didn't they, where Unagi said something about it being all kabuki, and Kairi said, "What are you talking about? You've copied my style. You are kabuki." We know with the face paint and things like that, which made me laugh. So maybe we'll see that singles match. You know, I'm certainly not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to seeing Kairi versus anyone, but the ones that I'm really looking forward to, Kairi versus Momo, Kairi versus Hazuki, which you've already mentioned, and then the obvious one, you know, Kairi versus Mayu, are all going to be tremendous. And, you know, Jesus, with the roster that Stardom have got at the moment, she could have wall-to-wall bangers for the next 2 years against different people. I mean, Jesus Christ. Let's move on from the KAIRI news. I'm sure we'll be talking about it in dribs and drabs throughout the podcast, but just a few other bits of news. It's everyone's favorite time of the year. It's the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. It's a time where everyone on Twitter comes together and abuses the opinion of one man as though it is sacrosanct. But they've been announced, and Stardom have come out smelling of roses, Matt. I mean, I'm just going to go through some of the categories and where Stardom wrestlers have placed on it. The most outstanding wrestler, Syuri was 5th, behind Shingo, Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, and Will Ospreay. In the Wrestler of the Year, the Lou Thez Ric Flair Award, Utami came in 5th. The Tag Team of the Year, now this is really interesting. Wrestling Observer Newsletter Tag Team of the Year, Syuri and Julia, ALK, came in 5th, despite the fact that they didn't wrestle a match after August. And that just goes to show how much people love their run with the tag belts. This one's huge for me. The Wrestling Observer Newsletter Promotion of the Year, Stardom was 2nd behind All Elite Wrestling. So All Elite Wrestling got 4,298 votes. Stardom got 2,070. That's phenomenal. New Japan came in 3rd, GCW 4th, UFC 5th, WWE 6th, Pro Wrestling Noah 7th, and Impact Wrestling 8th. I mean, if nothing else, this speaks volumes to the ever-rising popularity of Stardom. Just before
sorry to cut you off real quick, but think what AEW done. I mean, obviously, they deserve that award. Look what they did. They brought in Bryan Danielson. They brought in CM Punk after nobody can get a hold of him for like 7 years. You know, Minoru Suzuki, Yuji Nagata, you know, the Young Bucks putting on Match of the Year candidates almost every week on free TV. So, and then for Stardom to play 2nd, that's a huge deal for them to. I know we're kind of in the middle of the Olympics, so I'm going to be a little corny here. For them to get the silver medal, that's a big deal.
Completely agree. I think it's absolutely huge for Stardom to be 2nd on that poll. Absolutely incredible. Utami Hayashishita, though, won the Women's Wrestling MVP, beating out Britt Baker. Syuri came in 3rd, beating out Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair, rounding out the top 5. That award has been won by Becky Lynch 2 of the last 3 years. The Bryan Danielson Award, the Best Technical Wrestler, was won by Bryan Danielson, which, you know, doesn't surprise anyone. Syuri came in 4th for that. In the Feud of the Year, Utami versus Syuri was 2nd. In the best major wrestling show, and this is what I was on about with Stardom Dream Queendom. Stardom Dream Queendom came in 3rd behind AEW All Out and AEW Full Gear. So That's tremendous. The only other Japanese representation in the top 5 was the Cyberfight Festival. So then the Rookie of the Year, your friend Lady C, came in 3rd. And then just the last couple, Best Booker and Best Booker saw Rossi Ogawa as 2nd behind Tony Khan. Promoter of the Year saw Rossi come in 3rd. And then in the Most Improved came Saya Kamatani in 3rd. So, and Match of the Year. I missed off Match of the Year. We had Utami versus Syuri, the 5.5-star match from Tokyo Dream Cinderella, came in at 5th. I mean, the amount of Stardom representation there is absolutely phenomenal, Matt. And just before I ask your opinion on this, Velkage and Armani Shoe Exchange on our Discord brought to my attention something that Brandon of WrestleNomics have been talking about to do with Google searches in Japan. So, of these 5 companies, World Wonder Ring, Stardom, WWE, All Japan Pro Wrestling Noah, and Dragon Gate, okay, on the 1st of January in 2019, Stardom was last in Google searches in Japan. Out of those companies, it was last. Now, January 2022, it is top, and it is top by some distance.
Wow.
That's incredible. Now, obviously, I'm looking at a graphic, and for those members of our Discord, Velkage posted it to the Discord. They are above the highest point of any other company since the start of 2019 at this very moment, which is absolutely phenomenal. And they have trended upwards since July of last year. I mean, what a time to be a Stardom fan, Matt.
Yeah, not only that, again, the KAIRI thing is only going to be bigger. It's only going to make it bigger. But I gotta give kudos to you. I don't know if you realized when you started off the segment talking about Wrestling Observer, you said, I don't know if you did this on purpose. I'm going to find out. You said they came up smelling like roses. Did you do that on purpose because Utami Hashista comes out with a rose, or?
I would love to say that was an intentional pun, Matt, but I can't lie to you. I cannot lie to you. No, it was a complete accident.
I was like, oh man, he's weaving this in because they faced, I think the only category they came in number 1 in was Utami. I was like, oh man, this guy's a genius. You know what I say? Sometimes you're better off being lucky than good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously those are huge awards. And again, I know, the Wrestling Observer Awards, they're very polarizing. And I've said it on this podcast before, when it comes to Dave Meltzer, in the words of Terry Funk, he said Dave Meltzer is the greatest worker of all time because he's the only person to feed his family for 30 years without taking a bump. So,
I mean, it's one man's opinion, ultimately. But obviously, these are voted for by the fans, which I don't quite then understand the abuse the awards get. But they're subjective. It doesn't particularly matter. What it does show and what I'm using them for is sort of an indicator of where Stardom features on the wider scale. And, when it's in popularity, when it's above New Japan and things like that. And obviously we're not talking New Japan numbers in profits or anything like that, or, numbers that they're able to draw. But, in popularity, coming second only to AEW or, the best promotion of 2021 behind only AEW, that's phenomenal stuff for Stardom. A couple more bits of news before we head into the 2 shows we're going to be looking at today. Velkage on our Discord actually brought up that there is a new trainee at the Stardom dojo. Now, she has passed her protest. She hasn't been named, or I can't find a name for her at the moment. But she is going to be introduced to the crowd at the Korakuen Hall show on Monday, the 21st of February. Now, she is going to make her full debut in the ring at the New Blood 1 show. And that's something that I'm going to talk about now. Now, if you remember when they did the press conference for Stardom Cinderella Journey, and they were talking about the match cards and how the main event is going to be put to a vote, they also announced the formation of these New Blood shows. And we've had a little bit more detail in regard to those shows. So New Blood 1 is going to take place on March the 11th, which is a Friday, and it's going to be in Shinagawa Intercity Hall in Tokyo. Now, the way it's been packaged is that it'll be a new show centered on the new generation. Many players from other organizations will participate, and the announcement on matches and participants for the first show have been announced. So we've got a tag team match between Saya Kamatani and Lady C, and Mirai and Mei Sakurai. We've also got Unagi Sayaka and Waka Tsukiyama taking on the marvelous team of Maria and Ai Huzan. And we've also got Starlight Kid challenging Haruka Umasaki to bring a tag team partner for the main event of that show. So 3 matches announced for that show. We seem to be blooding youth here, Matt, and giving people even more opportunity to work is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. This is big because you're going to be in a card on a show with some of the best women's wrestlers in the world. So this is a great opportunity for everybody to bring their A game up. And again, there's probably a lot of these younger people, grew up watching Kairi Sane, Kairi Hojo, whatever you want to call her. So now it's like, now that she's back and in the promotion, this just gives them even more reason to go out there and absolutely steal the show. So I can see nothing but good things that come from this. But I guess quick question for you, Rob. Do you know how we can watch it? Is this going to be on YouTube or is this going to be on Stardom World or?
At the moment, there hasn't been anything announced for how you can actually check out this show. There is more to be announced at a later date. So, hopefully, obviously, March 11th it's less than a month away. It's about 3 weeks away. So I'm hoping we're going to learn some more, maybe at the Cinderella Journey show on Wednesday. But again, we don't know at the moment. What I do like, though, so for example, Haruki Umasaki, who I believe wrestles for Diana, the fact that they are in the ring with someone like a Starlight Kid, the fact that Mei Sakurai and Lady C are sharing, and Mirai, because Mirai's only got, I think, 2 years wrestling experience, something like that, against, the likes of Saya Kamatani, giving them that in-ring experience is a fantastic thing to do. And Mei Sakurai, just spoiler, is probably going to be my one negative of this show, but I think giving them more chance to wrestle in front of an audience in the ring, in a less pressured environment as well, I think is going to be very, very good going forward. And it's going to help the sort of caliber, especially with that Future of Stardom division, if we're going to see even more people on that show. I'd like to see people like Ahina when she comes back. I'd like to see her on these shows. Rina, Ruaka, really give these people, these who are effectively children, give them even more in-ring experience. Because I think it really does. It's really going to help. As you always say, Matt, reps. Reps is the main thing. Final bit of news. And I wanted to leave this until the very end because I know there's going to be speculation. So, Saya Kamatani.
Okay, I was wondering if we were going to talk about this. All right. Shut up, Matt. I was like, we got off the Kairi thing, and I was like, wait a minute, there's one more. I'm like, all right, I know where Rob's going, and then you brought up the roses thing. All right, I'll shut up. Go ahead, sir.
It's all right, man. Don't worry. So, Saya Kamatani, and someone posted on Twitter the fact that Saya Kamatani can't tell who someone is unless she's 6 inches away from their face. That really made me giggle. But Saya Kamatani sort of came face-to-face with the mystery opponent after it had been revealed to be Kairi, and she apologized, turned round, and there was Kairi. So she sort of turns back, and obviously we've only seen the back of the head and this white hat that we've been seeing for the last couple of weeks. Kairi says, how many people have you told? Because everyone already knew. She then also alludes to the fact that she wants Saya's white belt, which, bloody hell, absolutely. But the big thing to come out of this, there's a second mystery woman, Matt.
Yeah, now I heard some speculations and I read some articles from some really prominent people in the Joshi world. And the one thing that, you can speculate on who it is, Tony Storm or Yoko Bito, but somebody brought up that, you already brought KAIRI in. Outside of bringing Io in, which if it happens, it won't be for another year or two because I feel she's got some time on her WWE contract. Like, who else can it possibly be? But it might be somebody. Again, as this roster is getting loaded, it might be a legend to come back just to maybe help out with some stuff backstage. And the main name that was mentioned, again, in a non-wrestling role, is Risha Hoshiki. Which, I mean, obviously we would go absolutely nuts if the greatest white belt champion, in my opinion, comes back as kind of just a figurehead and maybe somebody that's going to kind of maybe mentor the young talent. So that's kind of like where I'm going. That's what I kind of heard, and I was kind of hoping for. I'm not sure what you heard or what you think, but what your speculation is, but I'm excited to hear about it.
I mean, I'd love it if it was Horisha Hoshiki. I don't think it will be. I think we talked about it last week when Saya Kamatani was sort of caught short by Natsupoi and how she had to double take with her to see if it was her. I think it's going to be Sayori Anu. She's a freelancer. She looks the spitting image of Natsupoi, which sort of makes sense as to why Saya Kamatani would have to double take with Natsupoi. I think they've done it right by waiting to announce her because I think that would have been overshadowed by the return of KAIRI. That's my own personal opinion. Much as I'd love to see Arisa return to the ring, I also don't want to see her hurt herself anymore. So just no more. Just give her a rest. She needs it. It
would be a non-wrestling role. From some of the speculations I said, it'd be a non-wrestling role. But, I go on this podcast and we talk about how I know very few wrestlers, female Joshi wrestlers outside of Stardom. Her I know, though. Anu I do know. I mean, I've seen some of her stuff, and that would be jeepers. I mean, you're really loading up the roster now. Holy mackerel. Yeah. To quote Gorilla Monsoon, holy mackerel.
We're talking a ridiculously loaded roster. So, I mean, that was all on Friday. I mean, Jesus Christ.
And there were shows we have to talk about, too.
And there are shows we have to talk about. Now, luckily, these two shows, there was two huge talking points to come out of these two shows, which was obviously the main event of night one and the main event of night two. But we will be going through the rest of the matches because there were some hidden gems on these cards. Let's kick straight into the show from the 12th then. So Stardom's Cinderella journey in Osaka, the 12th of February 2022, from Edion Arena, Osaka number 2, in front of 402 people. So match 1, a three-way. Saki Kashima defeated Momo Kogo and Hanan with the Mai emblem in 5 minutes and 47 seconds. First thing we need to point out, Matt, it's a peach. The megaphone is a peach. Velkage brought this up on the Discord. It's a peach. How did we not see it was a peach? Momo means peach. Neither of us picked up on that.
We thought it was a heart. Maybe just because we love our significant others and it's Valentine's Day. Maybe that's why.
Maybe that's what it is. What do you think of this one, man?
This is pretty good. It was a nice little opener. Hana and Momo Kogo, they're two youngsters that keep impressing me each week. Saki's obviously one of the most underrated wrestlers, but kind of like, it seemed like to me, like Hana got her spots in early and then kind of just kept getting pitched out and like almost turned into like a one-on-one match with Momo and Saki. Again, nothing bad. They all worked hard, but nothing that you need to go out of your way to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I did like the fact that Hanan and Momo briefly attempted to beat the stars back into Saki, which really made me laugh. Momo Kogo's pre-match promo was all about, we need to get Saki back in stars. I don't know how much she she thought that was going to happen, but there we are. Again, yet another Saki win, 3 in a row for the first time in what feels like decades. The run wouldn't last, spoilers. But even so, a decent enough opener. I didn't bother rating this one. Match 2, tag team match. The DDM team of Maika and Himika defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Mina Shirakawa and Waka Tsukiyama with the JP coaster in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. Poor Waka. DDM just point blank refusing to say or acknowledge her in the slightest. I felt so sorry for her, Matt.
Yeah, I think I even texted you. I told you. I said, this isn't going to be, a match of the year contender or anything, but this was fun. For the handful of minutes it was on my TV, I enjoyed it. And what I enjoyed is, Waka, obviously she needs a little bit more of an edge, and she obviously gets it, on this show. Himeka does a good job feeding. Based on the size, she's one of the tallest in Stardom. She does a good job feeding for these forearms. And Waka's throwing them in. And then Himeka drills her with one, drops her, and was like, come on. And they just kind of keep going back and forth. And that's where she needs, she needs that edge. And I think she got it a little bit here in this match. And then she kind of starts belting Himeka, and then Himeka just takes her off with like a Kojima-style lariat. And then it's just lariats abundance in this one. It's like if Stan Hansen teamed up with Kojima. There's just so many lariats from Mike and Himeka that it just almost seems like, and then you throw in Mirai's left-handed lariats, it almost seems like DDM is becoming the faction of lariats. But I thought this was really fun. And I thought they did a good job making Mina look strong. For the tag title match coming up here next week as we record. But I thought this was a really, really fun match. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed everything I saw on my TV. And Waka, to me, her stock went up here a little bit for this whole weekend, especially in this match. But yeah, they did abuse the bejesus out of her. God bless her.
For me, she's the underrated MVP of this week. Between this, her reaction after the main event, and then the way she conducts herself in her match on the second show that we're going to be looking at, I thought she was absolutely phenomenal. Final thing, I do really like the fact that it now seems to be Cosmic Angels' new thing to slap Waka hard on the chest to show support. That seems to be the new thing.
To start the match, let's injure our partner before the match, before it even gets started. It's like, from a psychology standpoint, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But like, if you just take a look at it, what it is, and watch it, god damn, it's funny. Poor Waka.
Watching Mina trying to keep a straight face while it happens is also very funny. We then get match 3, a 6-woman tag team match with the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Koguma, and Hazuki defeating the Uedatai team of Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Ruaka with the moonsault in 13 minutes and 44 seconds. This was really fun. The one thing that I did notice, though, Matt, this is Mayu's first match back from her tight back. She did not look 100% coming into this match, and she really, really seemed to struggle after hitting that moonsault. She seemed to be in a lot of pain.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, and you might be right. We don't know. Another way of looking at it is, we talk about it all the time, Mayu Iwatani is like the greatest seller, like one of the greatest sellers ever in the history of wrestling. So
that's a good point.
Maybe her back was only hurting her 40%, but she sold like an extra 30 or 40% on it. So to build that sympathy. But even the psychology of the match is like, okay, Mayu's back this show, Tam's back, at this show. So it's like, all was right in the world on the Turner household when I was watching the show. But it's just like, so you're kind of like, okay, maybe they'll take it easy on Mayu's back, and then they just work on it. And again, the simple psychology is, we all know who her back's, beat up. She's taped up on the back. It puts a big target on it. You have the biggest heel faction in there. It would make sense for the psychology of is, we're just going to beat up on Mayu. And then she makes the fiery comeback. Well, she obviously does a good job selling. Tags in Hazuki. She comes in a House of Fire. And then Mayu fires up at the end. They do the Freedom Dropkick. And then she hits the moonsault, which usually they have, they do Hazuki with the Michinoku driver or Koguma with the top rope splash. So I thought it was interesting that Mayu would kind of fire up, hit the moonsault. But yeah, it just seemed like when she was hooking the leg that there was nothing left. Again, she's obviously injured, but maybe she sold it to lead it on a little bit more, which is just the brilliance that is Mayu Iwatani.
And happy birthday to Mayu, by the way. It's her birthday as we record today, but I thought on the second night she looked a lot smoother. She seemed to be a lot more lucid than she is on this show. It was a really fun match, though. I gave it 3 stars. It was fun to watch. I don't want to sound like I am ragging on Ruaka, but she seems to be, at the moment, struggling a little bit with the pacing. And I understand that she's something completely different, and it's something that I happen to really like about Ruaka. But at the moment, she seems to be and I know she's obviously going to be the weak link. She's a rookie. But, I don't know, there's something not right. And I noticed it here, and I noticed it on the next, not so much on the next show, but I did notice it on the next show. I don't know if she was just having an off week, or if there's something else. Am I just looking too much into it, Matt, or is there something you noticed as well?
No, we've been talking about this, or I've been bringing this up maybe every other week. That it just seems like her ring positioning's off. Even I thought she looked a little bit better night two, and we'll get to it. But her ring positioning seems to be off. Her timing's off. And again, look who she's in the ring with. Obviously, she's in the corner with Momo and Starlight Kid, which I think me and you both agree are the two best workers in a Oedo Tai. And then she's in there with the tag champs and Mayu Iwatani. So it's like they did a good job of kind of hiding her weaknesses and just keeping the heat on Mayu. But it just seems like there's always something off with her. It doesn't seem like she's progressing as much as we've seen Hana progress, or even Momo Kogo in just the month and change that she's been here. And I just don't know what it is. I just don't know if she needs to get more reps in, if she needs to train more. It's just obviously we want her to be better. We want every wrestler to be better, so this way they can have a successful career. But there's always just seems something in her matches that just seems off to me. But it can always be overshadowed when you have the people on your team or Momo Watanabe and Starlight Kid. But no, I agree with you. There's just one or two things that are missing that she just seems to just not be able to put together just yet.
Let's move on then. Semi-main match 4 tag team match. The Donna Del Mondo team of Natsupoi and Shiori and the Queen's Quest team of Saya Kamatani and Azumi ended in a time limit draw of 20 minutes. If there is any match on this card that I am happy went to 20 minutes, it's this. I thought this was fantastic, Matt.
Yeah, and a quick 20 minutes too. They were like doing the countdown, and I was like, is this 15 minutes? Because it just seemed like it went by so fast. There was some really good double team work from the Queen's Quest team, and I talk about it all the time. You can put any members of Queen's Quest together on a tag team, and they always just seem to gel well. Even when Momo was the leader, Momo Azumi, Momo Utami. This one we get Saya Azumi. They do this really cool spot for their comeback where they both did double team springboards on both sides of the ring to pretty much give all four corners of the ring and the fans a really great visual. I thought that was good. Obviously, Shiri and Azumi, they have great chemistry, but what this really came down to, especially the last few minutes, it came almost as a preview of Saya versus Natsupoi, which Stardom does really well, because obviously that's going to be one of the big matches coming up next week. And they tease like a lot of big bumps. Like they tease like Saya doing a top rope Frankensteiner to the outside on Natsupoi. They tease Natsupoi doing a German suplex onto the ring apron. So if they're teasing that in this match, that means to tell me that it's going to be an absolute barn burner next week when we see this match. And the match did what it was supposed to do. It got everybody over, and it made me, and I'm guessing you and most of the fans as well, more excited for that match coming up on Wednesday between Saya and Natsupoi for the Wonder of Stardom title.
Absolutely. I mean, I really enjoyed Natsupoi versus Tam from July last year. It sort of flew under the radar a little bit, I think. You don't hear many people talking about it, but I thought that was a fantastic match. And obviously, we've been talking about KAIRI. She was wearing KAIRI's gear during this match for the white belt back in July. I mean, so it'll be interesting to see if she does that here. Overall, I thought the chemistry between all four women was phenomenal. Azumi, again, had a really, really great couple of days in between these two shows. I'm excited about Saya versus Natsupoi. I think Natsupoi is a fantastic worker. I don't really quite understand the logistics of getting the white belt match, having not won the high speed belt, but even so, I'm not thinking too much about that. And then anything with Shiori, and it's always going to be great, isn't it? I mean, this is, of all the matches on this card, this is the one I encourage you to go out of your way to watch. I gave it 3 3/4, Matt.
Yeah, and shocker. You gave the last match 3 stars, so did I. You gave this one 3 3/4, so did I. As usual, we're on the same page, my friend.
So let's go to the main event then. 6-woman tag team match. The Donna Del Mondo team of Julia Tekla and Mirai defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Yanagi Saka, and Mei Sakurai, with Julia pinning Mei Sakurai with the Glorious Driver in 21 minutes and 8 seconds. Now, first things first, Matt. I'm just going to come out and say it. We've said how May had been improving in ring, and in a tag setting, you could potentially hide some of her inconsistencies. I thought here she'd gone back to looking like that deer in headlights. Now, it might be because she had to have that time off with COVID. Obviously, this is Tam, May, and Waka's first show back after having to isolate. It could be with the angle that happens post-match. She was just very preoccupied. But there was a lot of times in this match where she was in the wrong position, or she didn't sell correctly, or she didn't feed properly. It wasn't the greatest from Mai Sakurai, and it's a shame as there was such a focus on her in this match, Matt.
Yeah, which makes sense for the angle. But you can see in something that I've noticed and something that, I've had happen, I've seen in matches before, is you can just see because she was off on so many spots and didn't know where to go, wasn't selling properly. You can see Julia slapped her right on the ribs, and you can see it was out of frustration. And she yelled, I think she yelled something "Come on, let's go! You got to pick it up because this angle we're about to do is all about you." And it just seemed like it was a bit off. And kind of take a step back and hashtag Rob Goodwin was right again. When we previewed this show last week, we were kind of questioning how come match 3 or match 4 wasn't the main event. And then you said, well, this might be where they do the turn, the Mai Sakurai, and to close the show. And as usual, you were right, sir. I mean, obviously that was the big angle, what everybody was talking about at the end of the show. But yeah, it just seems like she was off. And I think I had some people asking me, what would you do with her in DDM? I would take her off shows for 2 or 3 weeks, and I would literally show her, on the YouTube channel, her training with the Suri, her training with the Julia, Amika, Himika, where she's got long limbs. So you can train her strikes, kicks, have her one big kick, and then maybe give her a pile driver and then a choke. Completely remove her moveset. And then I would probably, if you're going to put her in singles matches, I wouldn't have her in there more than 6 or 7 minutes. I would have her, get some heat, show those new kicks, show off the new, pile driver or whatever, and then maybe the choke, and then get her in and get her out. But I just think she needs more training. And now that she's in DDM, and, DDM is obviously, the most push faction, that's going to put her more light on her. And if she's off kilter this much, that's not good.
No, and I'll be honest, the match isn't actually too much to write home about. It's good, you've got your good moments. Julie versus Tam is always great. Yanagi firing up on Tekla was brilliant. Mirai absolutely destroying Unagi with a clothesline reversal out of an STO. Just tremendous. But obviously, you want to give May more exposure in this match, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword, gain more practice. But again, she seemed off a game, which meant that she botched more with the time she was given. However, it wasn't necessarily about the match. The post-match angle was tremendous. Now, it might have been because I knew what was going to happen prior to the match because I had it spoiled. Thank you, We Are Stardom. But May doesn't seem into the dance, the opening promo, or even the gift of Tam's autobiography. So even before the match, something is off. Anyway, post-match, obviously, DDM have sort of been getting into her head about, you're going to stagnate in Cosmic Angels, you need to join another faction, and slowly been getting in her head. And basically, Julia outright asks her at the end of this match, do you have an answer? And Mariah says, yes, I want to join DDM. And her rationale is that she doesn't want to dance anymore. Which is, fair enough. Honestly, I can't see how Mirai going to DDM is a bad thing. DDM need a pin eater because that's the problem with having a faction of a billion upper mid-carders. Plus, it might help May to spontaneously grow a personality, which, we can but hope. Plus, with 8 members now, it seems we are almost nailed on that a DDM split is on the horizon, Matt.
Or you can do a 16-person tag match between DDM and Oedo Tai.
So enough room around the ring.
Kind of. Yeah. To go real quick, just on the match, the one obviously you have Julia and Tam in there, so obviously that's gonna. That's where the eyes are going to be drawn to. But I want to see a Mirai versus Unagi match. You mentioned the two of them just wailing on each other. I thought that was good. The post-match promo, I thought kind of when Mirai said, "I don't want to dance anymore." It's just no offense, but you really kind of didn't dance that well anyway. It's kind of like me at a wedding 6 beers deep and somebody says, let's do a shot of tequila and get on the dance floor. That's about, that's the dance off that you're getting there. So, but and then I thought it was funny. Tam was super aggressive. I mean, you're just pissing Tam off even more, which I think you're gonna see another side to Tam, more violent side of Tam, which I'm all for. But she was like, "You don't want to dance," and then points at Natsupoi, Mike, and him. I'm like, "Well, you guys dance." And then again, I'm like, "Well, maybe Natsupoi dances, but the other two not really." But anywho, so I thought that was good. Then, May was very passionate in her promo where she said she quit her, the agency that she runs to focus more on wrestling. And that I didn't know. And right there, I know we don't mean to bag on May Sakurai, but at the same time, it's like, you're in Stardom. Like, let's up our game here. But it's like the fact that she quit her, the job that she had or the company that she owned or whatever, so she could focus more on wrestling, that got over huge with me. So again, hopefully it's something that the DDM members take under her wing. And it is, you mentioned a few seconds ago, maybe they show more of her personality. Again, we'll see where it goes, but it's something to keep an eye on. I thought it was smart booking because I don't think she was doing too much, in Cosmic Angels, and now you're kind of give her this fresh coat of paint, and you're putting her with the the faction that they're pushing the most. So, but again, even Julia said when she did the closing the promo and she looked around, she goes, "Oh, there's 8 members now," and I was like, "Yeah." She kind of poked fun. She kind of poked fun at her own jokes. I was like, "Yeah, I guess so."
Speaking of Julia, her shouting "good luck in dance practice" to Waka as she leaves is elite level shithousery. I thought that was tremendous.
What a jerk.
I know, what a dick. However, I thought the best person in this entire segment was Waka Tsukiyama. Just her absolute, you could see her destruction, just absolute floods of tears, and the camera work was tremendous as they zoomed in on Waka not wanting to look away from May, looking betrayed as she walks to the back. That was tremendous, and to be honest, it helps to get that angle over as well, massively. And obviously it would feed into a really, really good match on the second show, which we'll talk again about now, which is Stardom in Kyoto.
What a segue. What a segue, brother.
I know. For the 13th of February 2022 from the beautiful Kyoto KBS Hall in front of 378 people. Match 1 then was a 3-way match, Natsupoi defeating Momo Kogo and Momo Watanabe with the La Magistral in 10 minutes and 5 seconds. A decent enough opener, Matt.
Yeah, not bad. You have the 2 Momos in there and Natsupoi as well. And I with these pre-match promos that Oedo Tai has been doing, it's like now they're trying to get a little more comedic, especially like where they're going to eat. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, obviously Momo Kogo, they have big plans for. She's really good already. You're in the ring with Momo Watanabe, who's one of the top tier people of Stardom the last handful of years, and Natsupoi, who's getting a white belt shot. So I thought this match did what it needed to do. And you kind of figured who was going to eat the pin on this one, who was going to go over. It just made sense to get a little more steam on Natsupoi, and obviously you're not going to beat Momo Watanabe here. But yeah, this was a solid opener. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And this really kind of, to me, the way that taking a step back, looking at it from a wrestler's perspective, this was just kind of just a learning match for Momo Kogo, which is obviously huge. She's in the ring with 2 of the best wrestlers on the roster. So good for her. Good for her to get the reps in, and the reps in with the right people.
Absolutely. Match 2, tag team match, saw the Stars team of Hanan and Hazuki defeat Waka Tsukiyama and Mai Sakurai, with Hazuki pinning Waka Tsukiyama with the Michinoku driver in 10 minutes and 37 seconds. Obviously, this match had already been booked and was sort of in the books before May turned to join DDM. So the chemistry between Waka and May during this was absolutely phenomenal, and if anything, actually did more for Waka than it did for May. I thought she looked brilliant here, Matt.
Yeah, you know what? Coming off these 2 shows, like if you were to, and again, I don't want to be negative, but if you were to make a list of the top 5 workers in Stardom and a list of the top 5 bottom workers, I would put May and Waka in there, and all of a sudden you made their feud interesting because of Waka's facial expressions, her firing up, on Mike and Himika the night before, how upset she was over May's betrayal. Again, this is just genius booking by Stardom. It's like, okay, we have these two people on the bottom that are, to steal your word, pin eaters. How can we try to get them over to mean more? And literally within 2 shows, they did that. But yeah, there was a lot of, May just acting like a complete jerk. Basically picking up where Julia left off the night before. Like coming in with the DDM hoodie, coming in with this complete asshole swagger, part of my language, but literally she comes to the ring like, her shit doesn't stink, obviously to a heel reaction. And then poor Waka, just heartbroken. You can just see it towards the end of the match. She just gets pissed off and it does not want to have any more of this crap from May. And then you just feel bad. Poor Hazuki she realized, hey, I got a match I got to win, so I just need to just destroy who I need to destroy and get in and get out.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved here the fact that May shoved Waka out of the ring so that Waka could start. So that May could start. And then Waka's literally dragging May back to the corner by her hair and then went to go and tag herself in, but is too short to get over the top rope to tag May, who's on the floor, so had to jump. But I thought she did a fantastic job here. And we talked about personality. Waka has got that personality in spades. I think she's so charismatic, and whilst I don't see her as, a future red belt winner, she's going to be a solid in-ring worker and someone that it's very, very easy to get behind, Matt.
Yeah, she has those facial expressions that that's like she's just like an old school 70s, 80s white meat baby face. It's like you like her. She's not in the same vein as a Miyu, or Utami by any means, but at the same time, you need a solid hand like that to get on the roster. And her inside cradles, the way she kind of goes back to back with them, and how it's like the first one's 2.5, and the next one's like 2.7, and the next one's like 2.999. It's like you almost bite because she does these inside cradles so well, and where she places them in the match. And it's just something different, that kind of stands out just a little bit more on the roster. So I'm kind of excited to see where they go, because now it's just like they kind of put a little more stock into her with this feud going on. So, and hopefully she can finally get a win, because I don't think she has a pinfall win in Stardom.
She doesn't. She doesn't have a win full stop, I don't think.
No. And you know what? And if obviously, if you pick up Living the Dream, Stardom's 10th anniversary review book, you can find, I was trying to find a way to work that in with everything we have going on. I'm literally looking at the book right now. But you can find out more stats from not only Waka, but so many other of the fantastic competitors in Stardom.
Thanks very much, man.
Pleasure.
Match 3 then saw another tag team match with the Queen's Quest team of Azumi and Saya Kamitani defeating the Uedatai team of Starlight Kid and Ruaka, with Azumi submitting Ruaka with the numero uno in 10 minutes and 59 seconds. This was another really, really enjoyable match, Matt. And for everything I said about Ruaka, I thought she looked considerably better here.
Yeah, she looked really good here. And I think maybe I've noticed that she looks better in tags than she does, like 2-on-2, than she does on the 6-person or 8-person. I think maybe she thinks that, well, maybe I can just do this, this, and this and get away. But if there's in tag matches, she has to do more. But she definitely did look a little bit better here. And again, 2 nights in a row, Azumi and Saya Kamitani. If they win the tag belts next month, I wouldn't complain. Their in-ring chemistry together is so well. And again, it's just, considering the fact that Azumi's main tag partner for the last 2 years was Momo. Obviously, Momo left and went to Oedo Tai. And Saya's tag partner is Utami with Aphrodite. To me, it's like if they put these in a feud, Azumi and Saya in a feud with FWC, I don't think I would complain, and I don't think neither would you. But I thought both teams looked really good here. But again, to me, Azumi and Saya as a tag team together, it's a tough team to beat. They look really good here.
Yeah, really, really good. I'm never, ever not going to be excited for an Azumi and Starlight Kid exchange. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. And when you've got in the back of your head Starlight Kid saying, you're my forever foe, or my eternal foe, I think she called Azumi, that's fantastic. You've then got that history between the pair, and they never don't put on a great match. And that match that they're going to have at Cinderella Journey, I'm so excited for it. I gave this 3.25, Matt. What about you?
I was 3.5, like a little bit more than you.
Fair enough. We got our second time limit draw of the weekend with match 4, a 6-woman tag team match. The DDM team of Mirai, Julia, and Maika, and the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Yanagi Sayaka, and Mina Shirakawa, ending in a very feisty time limit draw in 15 minutes. With everything that went on the previous night, Matt, are you surprised this went and got as heated as it did?
This is what it needed to be. You have the 3 main members of Cosmic Angels, and my first thing was, are they? You think this is funny? I'm like, are they going to dance because of what happened? And they're in the ring with the DDM team. Not only did they dance, but I thought their dance was the best dance yet. Maybe it was just because it was in the ring behind that stained glass background. So I was like, okay, maybe they're not taking this as serious, but I'm never not going to complain for the Cosmic Angels team dancing. But then the match starts, and they kind of almost pull an Oedo tie because they literally, they want to start Tam and Julia, and then Tam calls in Unagi and Mina to jump Julia. And I thought, oh, that's smart. You see them with the dance. Maybe they're not taking this as serious. And then they do the jump. They beat up on Julia. Mike and Mirai come in for the save, and then Julia turns it around and just boots Tam right in the face. And from that point on, it felt like it was a big fight. It felt like this was important. It felt like we don't care who wins. We don't care who loses. It all depends on who looks more bruised and beat up at the end. So I thought the time limit draw was perfect. I thought, and it even went past the time limit draw because it didn't matter. The bell was ringing. These 6 ladies were just beating the crap out of each other. And I'm excited to see where this goes because, yeah, it did have a big fight feel, and it got ugly in a good way. As well as it should, considering the fact what happened the night before. I really enjoyed this match. I really enjoyed the pacing, the psychology, and I thought the time limit draw was absolutely perfect and much needed here.
Yeah, it was another one I gave 3 3/4 stars. I do encourage you to go and watch this one. It's maybe not as technically as sound as the other match that we gave 3 3/4 to on the previous night, but Jesus Christ, these women absolutely beat the shit out of each other. I mean, Mirai is throwing lariats left, right, and center, and Julia and Tam, the only way that feud can get any hotter is if one of them legitimately kills the other one. So the fact that they've been able to turn the heat up on a feud that has already been going nigh on a year is testament to the booking. And yeah, absolutely, this is going to be phenomenally exciting, Matt, going forward. So yeah, very, very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you I like technical wrestling and hard-hitting wrestling. This didn't need to be, a catch-as-catch-can match considering the fact of what happened. So if you're a fan of hard-hitting, just chaotic matches, this is the one for you. Yeah, this was excellent. I had this one at 3.5 stars. So right around here.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked it a bit more, but I think that's just because I like big hossy fights. So yeah, big fan of this. Match 5 then, the semi-main, was another fantastic tag team match with the DDM team of Shiori and Himika defeating the Stars team of a much more mobile Mayu Iwatani and Koguma, with Shiori pinning Koguma with the Ruyan in 14 minutes and 17 seconds. Again, I know it sounds like I'm a broken record, but this was another really good match.
Not only that, but I made a note here. When you're watching a title match, right? Doesn't matter what promotion. And there's a 99% chance that the belt's not going to switch. But you don't care because it's going to be a good match. Look at any time Ishii or Goto challenge for the belt. Or just as recently, Hazuki and Maika challenging Utami for the red belt towards the end of last year. That title's probably not going to change hands, but you don't care because you're about to see a good match. Now, me and you talked before, we think that Momo is going to be the next red belt champion. So after this weekend, I think her first challenger should be Himika. And I think that would be an absolute fantastic match. Just how hard she was laying some of her strikes in. I would love to see a Momo versus Himika red belt championship match. Am I nuts for that? I know I'm nuts, but I think that's something, I think that'd be great.
I'd be all up for that. I will be very much up for that. So sorry, I'm thinking about the very prospect of that match, and I don't care. That would be incredible. Even with it being a predictable result, it's one of those that you'd still look at and go, taking the result out of this, it's going to be a hard-hitting, really, really good match.
Yeah, I don't get hung up on like those. It's just like, well, the belt's not going to change. Like, just give me a good match. You can't just have the belt change. One title win, belt change, no title, no, successful titles. It's not UFC. You can't play hot potato all the time with it. But that's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, man, where are they going to go with him? Because she's so good, and they're kind of shining people up on these last two shows. I mean, look who's in the main event. I mean, they shine Saki up. They shine Waka and Mai Sakurai up. So it's like, I think it's somewhere in the late spring, early summer. I think they need to give Himika a little singles push. And I would love to see that match. But anyway, yeah, this was fantastic. Yamayu Utani and Koguma versus Shiri and Himika. Not only was it a solid match, but again, to me, the outlier of this match, the big story, was your preview for Shiri versus Mayu, which that's how the match started. It's kind of how it built. And I'm just super excited to see this match coming up. We have, in about 5 weeks' time.
You spoke about Himika. Her last singles title match was in October 2020.
Wow. You do your research, sir.
18 months ago, her last singles match, and that was against Julia for the Wonder of Stardom Championship at Korakuen Hall. So
has she ever had a red belt? Gone challenge for the red? I didn't think so.
No, that's her only singles championship match in Stardom.
Wow. It's time.
I think it is. I mean, especially as we talked about when we first started doing this podcast together. She'd just come out to Shuri and said, basically, if Konami's not fit, I'll take you on. And then she never got that singles match that she probably deserves. So I imagine that perhaps this could be turning into an angle, and maybe this could be the reason that Himika leaves DDM. She doesn't feel like she's getting the opportunity. Maybe. That's me very much spitballing, but I reckon that could be leading to something, because that's a long time for someone to go without a singles belt. Like, not just even red or white belt. No SWA, obviously no high speed, nothing. So
you don't want to see Himika in a high speed match?
Don't think. Yeah, well, do you know what? Genuinely, the pace at which she runs at people in the corner is genuinely frightening. So I reckon she'd probably do a job.
3-minute match. 3-minute match.
Oh
just
her
throwing 80-mile-an-hour lariats.
She'd kill someone. She'd legitimately kill someone.
We just rebooked the entire high speed division in 45 seconds.
So the main event of this show was the SWA Undisputed World Women's Championship match between the champion Tekla, and she defeated Saki Kashima with the Daokugumo death drop in 14 minutes and 11 seconds. A couple of stats heading into this. Obviously, this is Tekla's first title defense since winning the vacant belt at Nagoya. This is Saki's first singles title match since October the 8th in Osaka Joe Hall against Shuri, which was impromptu. She has never won a singles title and has had only 5 single title matches before this match. 1 for the SWA, 2 after this match, 3 for the high speed, 1 for the Wonder of Stardom. She's been with the company since June 2011.
Wow.
Micah has had 2 opportunities for the red belt, and she's been with the company just over a year. Just over 2 years. Just to give you some context.
Wow. Well, I thought Saki looked great here. And they did a good job building her up on the shows the previous week leading up.
Honestly, this goes to show that Saki needs to be given a little bit more respect and a little bit more of a spotlight, because I thought this match was great. And for all of what we said about Tekla selling in that one match, do you know what? I'm willing to call that an isolated incident, because I thought she sold tremendously in this match, especially the desperation as the match got deeper. I thought this was a really, really, really entertaining match. And I think these two, similar to Tekla and Mina, they have great chemistry. It's obviously a very different matchup to that of Tekla and Mina, but they still have very, very good chemistry, Matt.
Yeah, I thought this was really good. And for me, being a heavy metal, death metal guy, Tekla comes out to this absolute phenomenal song. She had a mask and a new jacket. I was like, oh, man, Tekla, her stuff's going up with me every week, just based kind of just on the music alone. but I thought this was probably Tekla's best singles match. I thought this was really good. They gave it enough time, not too much. I mean, both these shows were kind of just loaded with talent, loaded with storylines, and you throw in the KAIRI thing as well. So Stardom's coming off really a good handful of days, and I thought they did a good job basically bookending the show with a solid title match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Saki's kicks, I'm a big kick guy. Saki's kicks she was really laying them in. Tekla's selling, her feeding into it, how you alluded to a minute or so ago about her looking more desperate as the match goes, especially if it's a title match. Not only I might lose this match, but I might lose this title that I just won. And, there was some points in the match that if you didn't know the result that you thought maybe that Saki could win, which is just a great illusion, the illusion and the art of professional wrestling. So great job by both women here to close out the show.
And I think as well, they've built the Kishikasai so strongly as this surprise roll-up victory that anytime she locks it in, you are almost trained Pavlovian dog style to think, holy shit, she's going to win.
Yeah.
And I thought that was done really, really well here, and that was sold really well by Tekla. Tekla selling Saki's buzzsaw kick like she'd just been decapitated was tremendous. And then there was a wonderful moment where Tekla goes for the O'Connor roll, and as she goes to bridge, Saki literally kicks her in the back from on the floor, and I've never seen that reverse live, and it was so simple, but it looked so cool. I really, really liked that, and it was, like I say, the most subtle thing, but as we've already mentioned, she's such an underrated worker. She really is. Overall, I gave it 3.5 stars. What about you?
3.25. I was just right there with you, 3.25. But yeah, this roster's so deep. It's so deep. And it's, again, not to beat I'm going to keep beating the drum. I don't care. I can't wait to see KAIRI work with all these people, whether tags, whether, singles. I mean, it's just so much opportunity in there for everybody in this company. And I'm excited to watch it grow.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the end of our 2 shows that we're going to look at. I just want to quickly preview a couple of shows that are going to be happening, one of which happens tomorrow as we record and one of which on Monday. So the cards have been announced for that. So we've got from the 20th of February from TKP Garden City, Chiba, we have got the following card. We have got a 4-way battle between Saya Kamatani, Hanan, Mirai, and Fukigen Death. We have then got a tag team match with Maika and Himika taking on Rina and Ruaka. We've got a tag team match, which, Jesus, this is going to be good. Natsupoi and Shiori taking on Utami and Azumi. Plug it into my veins. We've then got an 8-woman tag team match with the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, Koguma, and Momokogo taking on the Cosmic Angels team of Tam, Unagi, Mina, and Waka Tsukiyama. And then our main event is a 6-person tag match with Julia, Tekla, and Mei Sakurai taking on the Uedatai team of Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Saki Kashima. Apart from the obvious then, Matt, which is that tag team match between DDM and Queen's Quest, what are you most excited for here?
Maybe you need to put that Queen's Quest DDM match on last. Staring Utami in the ring again. It's the women's version of Flair, Steamboat, Okada, Tanahashi. Oh, that 8-person, that co-main event, the 8-person will be good. Anytime we can get Tam in the ring with Mayu, I'm game. And the first match is a multi-person match with Death, to quote you. Put the money on Death if there's more than 2 people in the match. So 100% winning that. Definitely. The Korakuen Hall show then that follows on the 21st, which is the Mondays we record. The card has been announced, and that goes a little something like this. So we open with a tag team match. The Stars team of Hanan and Koguma taking on the Uedatai team of Fukigen Death and Saki Kashima. We've then got a singles match, Mina Shirakawa versus Momo Watanabe. They put on a fantastic match in the 5-star, so if that's given time, I'm excited for that. Is that, I'm going to cut you off real quick. Is that Momo's only her second singles match since the turn? She had the singles with Azumi, and I think that was it. Everything else has been multi-person.
That is a good question. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. She's certainly not had many singles matches. This could be her second one,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm sorry. Go ahead. That thought literally just popped in my head as you said Momo Watanabe and nobody else. I was like, hold on.
A singles match, finally. We've then got a 6-person tag with the Queen's Quest team of Utami, Saya Kamatani, and Azumi taking on Mayu Iwatani, Momo Kogo, and Hazuki. In our 4th match, we have got the DDM team of Julia, Mirai, and Mei Sakurai taking on the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Waka Tsukiyama, and Unagi Sayaka. In our semi-main, it is Prominence versus DDM, an outpost ready for World Climax, with the DDA team of Suri and Tekla taking on the Prominence team of Risa Sera, and Fujita Akane. Akane Fujita. And the main event, the Artist of Stardom Championship match, Maika, Himika, and Natsupoi, the champions, taking on the challenging team, Younga Uedatai, Starlight Kid, Ruaka, and Rina. Matt, what are your opinions of the Korakuen Hall show?
You know, I've noticed the past few times that Starlight Kid's been in the ring with the taller opponents, obviously meaning Mike and Himika, that she puts more explosion into things that she does. Not that she hasn't before, but the psychology just makes sense. It's like, okay, these people are bigger. I throw kicks. I throw some forearms. I throw some drop kicks. When she does the 619 thing, she throws it with a little bit more force. So don't be surprised to see it here. I think just those little things that make Starlight Kid brilliant. I think you'll see it on here. Obviously, the Cosmic Angels, DDM, I think that's going to be bowling shoe ugly, to quote Jim Ross again, in the best way possible. I think that's just going to be a fight, considering the fact that you have Waka and Mai on opposite sides, and obviously Tam and Julie as well. But I'm really looking forward to the Mina versus Momo match. Again, they had a great match in the 5-star, as you alluded to. Mina has gotten significantly better. Not that she was bad before, but she's gotten significantly better. And Momo has a new look with the Oedo Tai turn. And again, I think this is only her second singles match since the turn, which happened in December. So I think that singles match is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most.
And of course, we can't forget the DDM versus Prominence tag team match. I'm very excited to see what we get with that. Unfortunately, I very much think that Tekla might be eating the pin here, but we will see. Finally, Matt, obviously we are only 4 days as we record away from Cinderella Journey 2022 in Nagaoka. So what we're going to do is very, very quickly, we are going to race through our predictions for that show. So again, we'll go through this cards, we'll give our predictions, and then we'll laugh on the next podcast when we're both hilariously wrong. So pre-show 3-way. Now, this has had a different layer added to it. It's Rina versus Waka versus May. Who have you got for that?
That'd be May now, right? I mean, how can it not be?
Gotta be. I'd be amazed if anyone else bar May comes out of that with the victory. I don't see it being long before Waka picks up her first victory, but I don't see it happening here. I'd be incredibly surprised. We've then got the Future of Stardom Championship match between the champion Hanan and the challenger Momo Kogo. This is Hanan, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, not time for Momo Kogo just yet, but these two impress me so much that obviously they're in Stars together. They'll probably get this one 7-8 minutes, and I think it'll be a solid 7-8 minutes. I don't think this is going to get like 4.5 stars, but I think when we review this, we're both going to be like, yeah, this was a solid, main card opener. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Definitely. I mean, Momo Kogo's really impressed me in the last couple of shows, so I'm excited to see what she can do here. We've got the returning Lady C, your arch nemesis, in the next match with the tag team of Utami and Lady C taking on Momo Watanabe and Ruaka. I mean, I'm going to Uedatai, simply because, and I know this sounds horrible, but Lady C's eating the pin. Momo is going to kick her head off.
It's going to be Lady C completely dominating Momo Watanabe in about 4 minutes. No, I totally agree. It's going to be Momo getting the pin on Lady C. But we're going to get a little preview of Momo versus Utami, which I think we both think that's going to be one of the big singles matches coming up towards the end of March.
We've then got a tag team match with the team of Tam and Mayu taking on the team of Saki Kashima and Fukiken Death. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Mayu's team is going to win simply because we have got a World Championship match to build towards. What about you?
Yes, it's kind of weird. You having Mayu and Tam on it's kind of a throwback, It's obviously we know in real life they're probably really good friends. Obviously Tam, one of the 94 people that has betrayed Mayu. So I think it's kind of cool to see a little reunion here. It's kind of a weird team, Death and Saki. What was the name of their team? We Love Tokyo Sports?
Something like that, yes, in the tag league.
I think it'll be pretty solid because I think Death is a pretty solid worker. Obviously Saki, they did a good job with her over the last few shows, and it's Mayu and Tam. But yeah, it's going to be Mayu and Tam winning. I'm going to say Tam pinning Saki, just to maybe get a little bit more steam on Tam going into the KAIRI tag match.
It does make you wonder. Obviously, Saki requested this because initially it was a singles match between Saki and Mayu. It wouldn't surprise me if Saki's requested this be a tag match because there's something in the works. Don't quote me on it. I don't know anything, obviously. But it wouldn't surprise me if maybe the Uedatai thing is to play on the distrust between Mayu and Tam. Maybe. And that's how they come away with a victory. We will see.
We'll disagree with you when you said that you don't know anything because you know enough to write a book. But anyway.
Our last non-title match then is the DDM Civil War match with Syuri, Himeka, and Maika taking on Julia, Tekla, and Mirai. Oh, Jesus. Are they going to go time limit draw again?
What's the time limit? I time. If it's a half an hour, I think it's too long. But I'm gonna throw the time limit on this one because I don't know. Because I don't know who benefits what by a win or a loss here. Not unless Julia pins Syuri, and then it's just like, not unless Julia gets the pin just to build her up a little bit towards her title match. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna say time limit draw, but that's a toughie.
I'm gonna go. Okay. I'm going to go Himeka over Mirai. And
there you go, sir.
My reasoning behind that is, and I will keep plugging this damn DDM split till they bloody do it, I'm wondering if Himeka sees Mirai as a threat to her position in DDM. And maybe a big victory over here could be a sort of stamp of authority. You got the red belt shot that I feel like I should have had. So, here's a lariat and a backbreaker or something like that. I just see something like that happening. I don't see DDM being all rosy coming out of World Climax in March, and it could all start here. So we obviously had a vote, or Stardom put a vote up to see what should be the main event. That was won by the white belt match, so we'll talk about that in a minute, which means that next we have the Goddess of Stardom title match between the team of Mina Shirakawa and Unagi and the champions Fukuoka, Double Crazy, Hazuki, and Koguma. Matt, who have you got going over?
So this will be a solid match, but this is one that I think you're going to see an emphatic FWC win. They won the tag belts on a quick roll-up. They got to retain against Mike and Himeka on a quick roll-up. They need a solid finish win, like a Koguma top rope splash or a Hazuki Michinoku driver. I think that's what they get it here, but I don't see the tag belts changing, but this should be a solid, hard-hitting match.
I'm just going to put this out there. If Cosmic Angels lose, Mina will eat the pin. There's no way they'll have Unagi hitting the pin.
No, especially with that big tag match coming up at the end of March.
Exactly. Second in the vote was the high-speed match between Starlight and Azumi, so it would make sense for that to be the semi-main, but again, this card order isn't confirmed yet, so bear with us. And it's the champion Starlight Kid versus Azumi. This is the match I'm most looking forward to on this card. This and the all DDM 6-woman tag. I'd love to say I'd see Azumi taking the belt here. The thing is, whoever takes the belt here, the loser, I feel, is going to go on to challenge for the Wonder of Stardom Championship later in the year. So, or to do well in the Cinderella tournament. Now, whether that is Azumi or Starlight Kid, I don't know. What about
This is
you?
the toughest match. This is the toughest match to predict. Oh, time limit drop. No, double count out. No, I'm going to say Starlight Kid wins just because they've been kind of breaking Azumi down just to build her back up. I'm going to say Starlight Kid wins, but then Azumi gets a good run or maybe even wins the Cinderella tournament, even though I know that's been your prediction for the last 19 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though Stardom's only been running 11. But, this is... I mean, I've been wrong. There's a lot of times that sometimes on these cards I get like 2 matches right, but I have a feeling that I think I'm going to do well better than 50% on this show. This is the hardest match for me to predict, but I'm going to say Starlight Kid.
The thing is, I just don't see any of the titles changing hands on this card. I'm going to go Starlight Kid as well. And for the exact same reason as you, I think with all the storyline with Momo and Queen's Quest, I think it would make sense for Azumi to win the Cinderella. I don't know. It wouldn't, let's put it this way. I think Starlight Kid wins, but it would not surprise me in the slightest if Azumi wins.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like 55% on this one. 55% on this one that Starlight Kid wins. 42% that Azumi wins. And that's 3% left for time limit drop.
The time-honored friend. And then, of course, the winner of the poll was the white belt match. So the main event will be Saya Kamatani versus Natsupoi for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. Much as I love the Poi, Saya Kamatani's winning this, hands down.
Yeah, and I also think that this is probably the best match of the show. Not to say this whole card is just, as you reread it out, this whole card is an absolute banger. But I think just based on kind of the little tease of the crazy things that they were going to do in the tag match from the shows we just reviewed, I think this one's going to be an absolute banger. I'm excited to see what happens. These two have really good chemistry, but I think Saya gets the win here as well. Yeah, I don't think Natsupoi, they're going to put the belt on Natsupoi, especially the fact that they're teasing a KAIRI versus Saya white belt match coming up.
Yeah, as 51-49 as I am with Starlight and Azumi, I am 90-10 with Saya Kamatani and Natsupoi. And that other 10% is not a Natsupoi victory, it's a time limit draw. But I just don't see Saya Kamatani dropping the belt here. I do think that she will have a shorter white belt reign simply because we've had a couple of long ones. I just don't see it ending here. I think she'll drop it at World Climax. Who to? Maybe KAIRI on the second night. I don't particularly want KAIRI challenging for a belt yet, but who knows? Who knows? And that just about brings us to the close of our show. There's just a couple of things that I want to raise your awareness of in regard to our Patreon. Again, you can subscribe, patreon.com/the Stardomcast. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting, all the positive feedback about the bonus episodes. Thank you so much to everyone that has subscribed or given us any money at all to talk about Stardom. We cannot say thank you enough, and that is Joseph Usher, Rob Jones, Niagara Driver, John Owen, Valkage Bracker, Tom, Ed BC, Brandon Neal, Steve Clark, Tony Stanley, Emerson Stone, Alex Tremaine, IWEP Network, Mike, Spike SP, Jeff Baker, Dodon Solar, Steve Kaklamanos, Colin Matthey, Eric Sandoval, Ben Grimshaw. Thank you to each and every one of you for supporting our Patreon. We really do appreciate it. Our review of Ryogoku Championship Cinderella Sumo Hall Fiesta 2013 show, or whatever it's called, is currently up on Patreon for our red belt and white belt patrons. We put up a poll to sort of gauge what you would like us to do for March. That poll has now closed. So this is the schedule for March. On the 2nd of March, 6 p.m. British Standard Time, we will be doing a match review of Oedo versus Queen's Quest from the 7th anniversary show. It's the loser leaves unit match. On the 16th, we are going to have another match review. It is Nene Takahashi versus Meiko Satomura from Stardom The Highest 2012. And then on the 30th of March, it's the big one. The one you've all requested. It's the Momo Watanabe white belt retrospective. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress how excited Matt was when he found out this was what we were doing.
So excited. I am so excited for this just because I've only seen whoop. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, there's an emergency something going on in my area. Anywho, that's how excited everybody is because now there's you mentioned Momo Watanabe Wed Belt. My phone starts going all crazy. So yeah, I've only seen a couple of these matches, so I'm super excited. Super excited to talk about the build up she had. That Io Shirai had to kind of tear her down in a match and then build her back up. So I'm super excited to go over all that. I'm pumped. I hope that these little jabs I've been giving everybody to vote, I hope they worked because, well, they must have worked because we're going to be reviewing it, at the end of the month. And when Rob told me, I said, well, we're going to be reviewing this show, or the Momo White Belt retrospective, and we also have the 2 World Climax shows, literally probably within like 4 or 5 days of each other. So it's to quote Kevin Smith, it's a good reason to stay alive.
Absolutely, and just to talk about the podcast, we've just passed 10,000 downloads. So thank you to every single person who's ever listened to an episode of the Stardom Cast. We can't thank you enough. It's a pleasure doing it, and the fact that any of you out there like to listen to our idiotic takes and theories and wild conspiracy thoughts on Stardom is amazing. So thank you to every single one of you. In regard to the Cinderella tournament competition, obviously, I assume we're going to get the field announced at the Cinderella Journey show on the 23rd. But again, I could be wrong. As soon as it is announced, we'll put something up on social media and I'll put the form on Patreon ready. In terms of the free podcast, we have got a lot to review. Obviously, the 23rd is the latest pay-per-view. Obviously, we record on a Thursday so that our patrons can have the free episode early, but we're going to be at the mercy of Stardom World Upload. So depending on when that's released, it might be a case of next week being a review of the shows from the 21st and the 20th and the 21st, and then us doing another review for Stardom Cinderella Journey. Again, keep your eyes on social media and we'll sort of announce that a little later on when me and Matt have had a chance to have a talk about it, because I've only just thought about that. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. We really, really do appreciate it. You can go and subscribe to the podcast if you aren't already, anywhere you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review or a comment if you think that we've deserved it. It really does help the exposure to the podcast. So if you're thinking about a way of supporting us, you may be on the fence about the Patreon, just stick us a review down on a podcast app. It really helps us out, really helps us be exposed to more people. And we are the 12th most popular wrestling podcast in Japan. So there is that, I suppose. Thank you to everyone that subscribed to our Patreon, like I said. Thank you to everyone that has engaged with us on Twitter at the StardomCast. You can check out the website, www.podmania.co.uk. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Matt, where can they get you on the old socials?
You can get me on Twitter and or the Instagram. Just search Matt Turner OF. Any questions, comments, anything you want to talk about, any promoters out there looking to book me. Also, the new t-shirts are up, and I thank everyone that has bought one. I shipped a whole bunch out earlier this week. I appreciate the support.
They are incredible shirts. It's a very, very sexy design, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. We will talk to you guys again soon.